It's Rebecca here, and welcome to another art video. So for today I am doing this pastel speed paint of this nuthatch. So very quickly I want to first go over the supplies I used for this painting. So first off, I had used a type of paper I had never tried before, which was a sanded pastel paper. And I used the UArt 600 grade sanded paper, and this really changed how I worked with pastels. I had tried pastels once or twice in the past, never really with wildlife art, kind of more just gestural landscape paintings and things like that, and never really liked it. I couldn't get the layers or the build-up that I wanted. And so I tried the sanded paper, and it really changed the medium and made it completely new and different. So I definitely recommend that for any of you guys out there who have tried pastels and didn't really like how they worked but kind of like the results of them. I think the sanded paper is a big part of that. And then for the background, I used Prismacolor's Nuo pastels, and these are pastels that my grandmother gave me actually when I was younger, probably about like 10 years ago, but I know they still make them. They're just a hard pastel, and I just used them to block in the background. That way I wouldn't use up my pastel pencils for such a big space. And the pastel pencils that I used are the Stabilo pastel pencils. I have the set of 60, which is their full range. And even though this is the first painting I've done with them, with other little tests that I have tried before this and then after this, I think they're a really great set and would definitely recommend them so far. The only other tools that I used were a blending stump, which is just the normal little paper, rolled up paper blending stumps that you can find at any local art store, and then my finger to blend the larger areas. I usually use my finger if I wanted a more smooth blending in a larger area, like on the belly of the bird. But if I wanted a more detailed blending, like in the beak or around the eye, I would use the blending stick just because it gave me a little bit more control. I was very happily surprised with pastels how easy it was to get detail. I was kind of afraid going into it that it would blend out too much and kind of just look like a blurry mess, but I was actually really happy with how they worked. So you can see I kind of would start off by using a base layer of color and then layering colors on top. And something I also really enjoyed about pastels was your ability to add light on top of dark. I did notice that you wouldn't be able to go completely white if you had a color underneath, but you were able to lighten it a great deal, and that's something I'm not used to working in colored pencils and watercolor. You always have to go darker. You can't go lighter once you've gone too dark. So that was really great and made this process much more enjoyable than I expected it to be. So my process for this guy was pretty simple. What I would do is first start by adding a base layer like I am with this blue-gray for his back feathers. Next, what I would do is take a darker shadow colored pencil, and I used for this part a dark blue pencil, and I would add in marks to differentiate the different feathers and add strokes in the direction that these feathers would be going, added some texture and depth, and I would layer this on top of each other to just create a more organic feel of feathers. And once I got that in, I would take a light colored pencil and add some highlights on top, and I would just go back and forth between this dark shadow color and this lighter highlight color and layer until I got the desired effect. One thing I really noticed when you're trying to go for a painting that is a little bit more realistic and has less of a cartoony style, I think the main thing to focus on is really contrast. I noticed that when I bumped up my contrast and really paid attention to where my lights and darks go and really push how dark those are and really how light those are, it tended to look more realistic than my previous paintings have. So if you're struggling a little bit with realism, I would suggest trying that and see if that works for you. I know it did for me. This part of his feathers here is a part that I struggled with a bit. I wasn't sure if I got the angle right initially, but that's something that I really enjoyed about pastels, is that you could layer lights over darks a bit, and that helps you fix mistakes. Like right here, you can see I'm adding some dark pencil on his belly, And then I'm going to go on top with a lighter colored pencil and add some feather strokes, like some wispy little feather strokes over top of those darker lines. And it really helped give a sense of depth. And I think that was my favorite part about using pastels, and I'm really looking forward to exploring the medium more and being able to use it to its full potential. So like right here you can see I'm using that white pencil and going over top of the darks, and it really helps give a lot of sense of depth here and gives that effect of those wispy little feathers on his belly. So here I am again adding some darker colors underneath the feathers, and this really helps him pop a little bit. You can see as I'm adding this, the top half of the bird is starting to pop more, and that's because I'm adding that shadow for those lower wing feathers there, and it really gives that contrast that's needed to help the bird pop overall. So these back tail feathers I struggled with a little bit, and that was because I kind of lost the drawing when I did the background, the green background. I was trying to get that blurry effect, and I needed to really blend out, and I kind of lost where those feathers were in my initial sketch. But I was again very happy with being able to layer some lights over darks here with pastels, and it was really nice to be able to block in those dark colors where the feathers were without really fear of ruining my light areas, so I was able to go ahead and add those back in. So in this clip here you can see that my pencil is really not that sharp. I would never work with a pencil that dull on colored pencils, but I was able to get away with it a little bit more in pastels. Even though I would still say the sharper the better, but it came a point of laziness where I was like, I'm still able to get the results that I want with this, so I'll just keep working. But yeah, it's always better to have a sharper pencil if you can. So here's a real-time clip, and you could just see how slow I was actually going at this. This video is sped up very quickly, but it doesn't take... It can be deceiving at how long something like this can take an artist to do when you watch a speed paint on YouTube. Really, this took me multiple days of working on it, a couple hours here and there. It was not a quick painting. Even though compared to colored pencils, it did go much quicker, but still, it was not something I was able to sit down and finish in one sitting. So I know this might be funny to say, but this part of the bird was actually my favorite to draw. I don't know why. All those little wispy hairs that I was able to get in with that white pencil over top of that orange was just so satisfying to do, and I really liked how it looked in the end. So I really took my time here and enjoyed adding those darks in between the lights, and just layering on top of layering to get the desired effect that I wanted. I also really enjoy drawing the feet of birds. I don't know why, they're just very dinosaur looking, and I think they're very interesting to draw. So here I was blocking in the dark areas first, getting those shadows, then I added a medium tone on top of that, and then finally added the white highlights on top of that medium tone, and it gave it a very nice look to it. I think it looked really realistic, and I'm definitely going to use that technique in the future with my pastel birds. So here you can see again I'm adding that dark, then I added that mid-tone, and then I added that highlight. And since this was a much smaller area, I used my blending stump to blend out, because my finger would be too big to get into those little areas and blend the way that I wanted. Now we're coming up on the last part here where I did the little stump or branch that he's on, and this was very different from the reference picture I had. I'll put a little picture of the reference picture up in the top left hand corner for you now. And you can see that the picture has almost, I think it's supposed to be some type of bird food or bird feeder, because if you look at it there seems to be some seeds and nuts kind of stuck to it, and I thought that might be a little distracting, so I left that out of my painting. So I went ahead and just changed that out for a generic like bark texture. I wanted to make sure that whatever I used didn't take away from the bird itself. So I changed that up a bit, and here I am Adding layers, I first added a brown color and then I added some variations in browns. I added a little bit more orangey brown and then a lighter tan color. Then I went back over that with a dark brown and added the ridges for the bark. And then I went on top of that with a lighter color to add where the highlights would be. And here I am just making sure that everything looks good and that there's enough shadows and highlights where there needs to be. And then that's pretty much the finished painting. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. Be awesome, and I will see you soon. Bye!